Hi, I'm indie fantasy author Melinda Kucsera, and today I'm speaking with Chelsea McKenna, author of the epic fantasy series, the Vorelian Saga, beginning with Book 1, The Blood of the Lion. So, welcome, Chelsea. Tell us about The Blood of the Lion.
Hey, Melinda, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited. I've been looking forward to this podcast for weeks in advance. The Blood of the Lion, as you mentioned, is the first book of the Vorelian Saga. I had just recently published the second book as well, The Mark of the Damned. So I will come out transparently and say, first book ends on a cliffhanger, so nobody has to wait because they can jump right into the second book. And so the Vorelian Saga was built off magic, kings and queens, multiple realms, multiple countries. You've got multiple point of views. You have everybody having motives, and you've got a complex magic system as well as politics, gods, mythical beast. I mean, you name it. I have made my goal is to fit everything fantasy into this book.
Wow.
Yes.
So you picked up the kitchen sink and threw it in.
I did. I was like, we're going to throw everything in there. And one thing that was really important to me was just building. And I can give all the credit to my editor for that, was just helping me frame that framework into the first book so that when we get into the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth, and then future world off spinoffs, I can build off that. And it's not like an info dump, right? We don't want info dumps in our first book.
No.
So that's very important to me to avoid. So it was very important to frame the first book in such a way that you, as a reader, you get to peek through the crack of the door and say, holy crap, there is a massive world here. And did I mention there's maps? There's going to be 4.
Nice.
So, yes.
Well, let's get into it. Let's meet the characters so we can start talking about their world afterwards and all the kitchen sink items that you've thrown in there.
Absolutely. Now, I do have an excerpt. Are you wanting me to read that? I can.
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
Yeah, no, read it
Yeah.
so that that listeners can hear it. And if you have anything visual, you can definitely show it. But I do ask that you just describe it for those who are listening.
Perfect. I do have maps here, but I will refrain from showing them because I think they're just so much more credit due when you can see them in person. You can just pick up the map for yourself. I actually have one hanging up background here. For anybody that views in, I have one hanging up and it's kind of blurred out. But the excerpt I have is actually from one of my favorite characters. Don't tell my others. They'll come and stalk me. They'll haunt me in my dreams. But Morei was the start of the whole saga. And he was inspired from multitude of reasons for a king that was born into royalty, and he was raised with all the right cards, but fate had different plans. And so this excerpt is actually on the dust jacket of the book. So any potential readers that come up and pick up this, you're going to see it. It's right there. And this excerpt was actually part of the scene that I envisioned well before knowing the rest of the book. So I will read it here. And I'm not an Audible book narrator, so nobody come for me. But
we'll be kind and generous.
Be kind and generous. So this is how it goes. Everything had come to this moment. Fate had been cruel, dealing his cards stained in blood from the day he was born. Lifetimes of Geralt bloodlines had brought him to this exact moment. Whatever gods existed knew of his destiny far before Morei could ever understand who he was or what he would become. And now, the last of the bloodline lived in him, twisted by the poison of evil. A blade caressed the side of his cheek, the metal cold. It's time to pay the price, Demon King. So, that is my excerpt, and probably one of the biggest scenes for Morei, and that's all obviously discovered and explored in the first book. And it is also a major character arc for him as well.
So can we talk a bit more about that?
Well, we can. I don't want to give away too much. So
I'm going to try and get to give away all the spoilers. That's my job as the interviewer.
So one thing I can say is, and it's going to play a massive influence on how that scene goes down, is the complex magic system is broken into two branches, and you have light energy and dark energy. Now, light energy is a very common used form of energy among energy harvesters in the book, in the entire Vor world, and it's much more accepted. However, dark energy is what's considered the pure elemental energy, and it is resonated from a direct connection to chaos. And any energy harvester that attempts to harvest dark energy generally dies. It's just far too powerful to handle. So in the Vor history, there's only been 2 other energy harvesters that have mastered just at least one element of dark energy. And one of them has a big part in the modern storyline, which readers will get to learn about. But Morei becomes the 3rd harvester of dark energy, and he can harvest fire. And it's a very big taboo for him among his people, because everybody thinks if you can harvest dark energy, that you must somehow have an alliance with the Dark Lord, Sakar, and that it's a bad omen, that things are going to happen, and just a big domino effect. Cultural and religious beliefs play into a huge role of that. So Morei, being the king, has a lot going against him, and he has a whole city that's basically in his hands to protect after he has been told that there's a war coming, and he believes it is this particular city that has broken their fealty towards him, and they're coming for battle. And so it becomes a game of, does he do what he is born to do? But if he does, that basically says that he gets to become exactly who he doesn't want to be. And if he uses dark energy, the people may reject him. So, because that's a big secret for him throughout the entire story that readers get to learn about, where he's constantly battling between who he thinks he's supposed to be and who he wants to be.
Wow. So who does he want to be? So we know, he is somebody who can use this dark magic, which is the pure magic, as they see, which is cool. It's I've not heard dark magic as referred to as like pure magic before, so that's kind of neat. That's a neat twist.
Yeah.
So we know what he needs to do, which is embrace this and use that in this coming war. What does he want to be?
Morei doesn't even know that answer.
Morei, so he's searching.
Yeah, and that's I always say I have a lot of high fantasy elements, which is that character-driven plot. Morei is the epitome of that. He is a character that has somehow managed to drive his entire plot, and while he has some of those big external factors that are happening around him as king, I would expect nothing less. He has such an internal war with himself, because now this is another big tidbit.
Do tell.
Morei Geralt is prophesized to be the Demon King, and he's prophesized to be the Demon King because of ancient old text that was stumbled on hundreds and hundreds of summers ago. My use of years is summers in this work. So if you hear hundreds of summers, it's hundreds of years. So hundreds and hundreds of summers ago, there was an ancient text about the rise of a new empire and how there would be the end of peace and the end of the current times. And it's believed the Demon King is going to be leading that. And Morei, having been born with specific features related to the story, a lot of people believe him to be the Demon King. And Morei is very much against that. He's always ignored the rumors because he's like, he had everything handed to him. He had a really loving family, all of that. Everything was going great for him.
My character is jealous. He didn't get anything. He didn't get the really loving family. He didn't get everything handed to him. I could feel the jealousy wafting off him behind me. Go on, I'm sorry.
That is so true, though. That is so true. It's just I'm like, trust me, Morei got it lucky. My other male character didn't get it lucky. I was like, you're abandoned.
I mean, it's not that he didn't have love. Like he's got his younger brother who adores him, and he has a son who adores him, but also thinks that the adults in his life don't know how to need him to manage their lives for him.
Well, at least he has a younger brother. Morei doesn't have any family. This poor guy. He's been abandoned. His parents were killed.
Yeah.
Classic twist,
too.
right? Classic twist. See, they could practically make friends. They could be friends.
I mean, actually, one of his parents is still alive, but he doesn't know that. So he's never met them. He's never met his father, so he doesn't even know who the man is. He doesn't know that he has actually met him, and the man is still quite alive. He's never seen the guy's face, so he doesn't know that that's his father. But his mother is passed away when he was small. Yeah,
I love that.
And his sister is technically undead. Well, now she's an archangel, but she technically was died, became a ghost, was not happy with that situation, wanted to help out her family and still be involved in their lives.
An archangel is an epic twist.
That wasn't her choice. She got tricked into it. But a lot of other characters are very happy that she is now the Archangel of Death because they didn't like the first person.
That's a series I need to read. It's
ridiculous and fun. It's more humorous. But anyways, we're not here to talk about her ridiculousness.
Yeah, but I'm still wanting to hit you up afterwards for the series. Sure. I want to read that. I love that twist. Wow. I love that. I want to hear more about your world. So
it was not meant to go that direction, but she don't listen to me.
I was gonna say those are the best characters though, when they're like, what outline, and then they just forge their own path.
Yeah. When she became the Archangel, I was like, wait, whoa. Like a whole bunch of characters, minor characters had conspired behind my back, and like I'm writing it, and I'm like, wait, I didn't say you could do this. I don't know what's going to happen now. What do I do with her?
The second book did that to me. I had to rewrite my entire female storyline because a minor supporting character became a major crutch to her storyline and her development. And I was like, bro, what are you doing? He was so loud. I'm like, fine, okay, scrap the whole thing, restart. You can be a butthole, like whatever you want to be, because he's just a grumpy character with a lot to offer, and he somehow has a soft spot for her despite the history he has with Death herself. So because she's a character as well. So fun stuff.
Wow. Have you had any characters who are good switch to the other side? That's a big epic fantasy thing too, so I'm curious, like, or is that too much of a spoiler?
Oh, are you talking like if they die and go to the...
Well, no, it doesn't matter. Either they die and go to the other side, or they're good and they, like, after a while, like, the other side, the evil side is looking, they're right. Maybe, or something happens.
Like an anti-hero kind of thing, right? Because that's...
or something, some magic spell is on them and they're, like, momentarily, like, on the bad side for a while.
He's one of those characters. And that gets into the politics of the soul realm, which I haven't even broached on yet, because the soul realm is basically what many would consider the underworld. And there is Death herself, which Roshana, which she's ruled for hundreds and hundreds of summers. She's overruled, basically. She's making political deals and taking power where it shouldn't be taken, from very dark forces, demons basically, that are infiltrating the soul realm and eating the souls. So souls that pass into the soul realm are guided by guardians of death into the afterlife. And she's decided that she doesn't want that, because if she promises demons souls, then they give her power and further her reach into her own motives. But these souls that get devoured don't pass into the afterlife, which obviously is a big moral dilemma for this particular guardian of death. And he basically says, Zarek is his name, and he says, you know what? And he had a romance with death, because obviously we had to make it complicated. So
of course.
So, and that's another story for... He has his own backstory that is desperately trying to get told. And I'm like, bro, slow down.
Yeah.
I can only write so fast.
So you're going to find a book to put that in.
Of course. But he has his own dilemma, and he finally says exactly what you did, where it's like he was witnessing all these atrocities going against the very fundamentals of what the Guardian of Deaths were made for by the gods, helping these souls into the afterlife, keeping balance between the realms and chaos and the living and all that. And he left her, and he is sought out the main female character, Syra, and is helping her get to her goals, which kind of gets derailed in the second book, but I can't give anything away because that would be a significant spoiler.
So Syra's human. So the Guardian of Death is not a human character.
No.
They're like human-like, but
oh yeah, Guardians of Death
were
really cool. Guardians of Death were one of those characters that I saw in the very beginning of creating the saga. I wanted an undead warrior, but I wanted it to be a little bit of a twist. So they're actually taken at a very young age from the living realm. They're boys, and they're taken usually before the age of 10. And they are generally abandoned by their parents, or their family's been killed, or something tragic's happened to their life. And the hunters of the Guardians of Deaths come and seek out these abandoned or alone children under the age of 10, boys strictly, and they take them to the soul realm and they train them to be these warriors.
Why only boys?
I had a very big thing again with boys for that. I felt like it was just like this mindset where I just saw these Guardians of Death, and I said, you know what? I want such a masculine energy with this, where they're chosen and they have a thing for that, where they say the males are supposed to be taken. Now, there is rumor though, and this is a story I have to explore. There is rumors that there were females once, but they were all abolished well before Rashana's rule due to some unresolved political reasons that we don't know about yet.
So it's only boys. So girls don't have so there's not like another component, not a component, like something similar, but for girls, or maybe something different where girls are taken
a long time ago. So the soul realm has its own politics and its own storyline, but centuries ago there were females, and there's an untold story there as to nobody talks about it. It's taboo. It's not even Rashana's kind of like a power hungry female ruler, and she's abolished and burned all the ancient textbooks of the soul realms except for one that was taken without her knowledge, which becomes a crutch in the first book, and it'll have answers to what happened to the original Guardians of Death, and that's going to include the history of the female warriors as well. But we don't know all that story yet. That's tidbits that I'm like I see down the road, and I'm like, okay, I have to start working this in somehow.
Yeah,
like, that is as a big epic fantasy writer, where you're like, okay, where do I put all these storylines in, these different plots? And
girl, you're talking to the wrong epic fantasy author. I have 5 series, so that was my answer.
Yeah, no, I have an entire different series I'm working on besides the main one of this one. I'm like, and then I have.
Are they related? Because all mine take place in the same world, and the hard thing is characters travel back and forth between the series. I have to keep track. Like, wait, can you be doing this in this book? Or are you still in the other book? Because they take place at the same time. I'm like, the worst is with my Archangel girl, because she's often in her brother's series, and I'm like, when I have to write her books, it's like I have to like map out like when was she helping him, when can she be doing her own stuff. Like her stories end up zigzagging towards the climax.
I love that.
With all sorts of like ridiculous, like, wait, I need to stop and go help my brother. I'll be right back.
I love that. And then you get into the other storyline, and you're like, okay, by the way.
And then you get to see the thing, the scenes that you saw of her in his book. In his book, they're from his perspective, or like his son or his brother. But in her books, they're from her perspective. And like sometimes they're a little bit different, because there's things like maybe she arrived early and was talking to somebody else, or she like did something else while she was there related to her mission that you didn't see in his book because it didn't relate to his story. So I've had fun with doing stuff like that. Like,
I love that. And that's a little bit what I was doing that's because the world is so big that obviously I can't fit everything into one series. And so I was like, okay, I have a side project, which talks about and explores the origins of the Guardians of Death. So you're going to be introduced to a lot of characters that you'll hear about throughout the main series. I have a project in progress right now which talks about the dragon riders, and it's going to be heavily dragon rider focused. And you're going to get introduced to a lot of the gods that are mentioned and introduced throughout the main series.
I'm jealous that your dragons let people ride them. Like, I finally discovered dragons in my world, and they won't let people ride them. I'm like, what? Come on!
They get
That's
sassy.
why you're here, you know?
Yeah.
She's just like not having it, and I'm like,
yeah.
You just totally ruined the outline. Like, what am I going to do now? I have this cool gold dragon, and she will not let anybody ride her. She won't bond with anybody. The craziness that she created trying to keep all the humans away from her because she didn't want to deal with them was
I
like,
love that. I love
like,
that.
There was no plan for this. You're supposed to.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I get it.
Why can't I get the cooperative dragons?
That was something really important to me. Was like, I wanted the classic dragon riders because I've always loved that concept. So my other male main character, Cyrus, he was the first dragon rider in 8 centuries. And he's, obviously learning about the past of the dragon riders and stuff like that. But in doing so, I was like, I can't settle with just dragons. I'm like, I don't want just cooperative dragons. So I have created an entire world of mythical beast that, I've taken inspiration from different lores and stuff like that throughout the world and legends, like in the modern world, because there's some cool, really, really cool mythologies and legends and all that in the modern world that you can take and twist and, use as a base for something really incredible in your world. So I've done that, and I have rogue dragons that are they are their own breed and species. They're not the normal dragons that readers get introduced to initially with Cyrus and his dragon. They're going to be a little bit more contorted, twisted. They might not even have some of the standard dragon features, stuff like that. So, because I wanted that attitude, I was like, you can't just have it one way.
No. And that's not fun, I think that's the problem. Like, I could not conceive of a big giant powerful dragon that has magic submitting to a human riding them who has no magic. No. I think that's why they rebel. And I'm like, and I can't make them I can't undo that, because I can't imagine why these big, beautiful, majestic, intelligent creatures would submit to that. So.
Well, and that's the thing. That was something that was really important for me to address as a writer with a dragon rider. And that concept was, you have these massive beasts, and what about a human? What about a human has some sort of attraction to say, okay, you can ride me? And I took it from a very kind of a traditional concept where I was like, the rider, the potential rider, the dragon chooses the rider, and the dragon in the egg can go for hundreds and hundreds of summers without cracking or hatching. And once they feel the energy of the individual, because energy is very big in my world, they feel safe and secure as younglings, and they can hatch, and they will bond with that rider immediately. And it's a mental link that they bond with, so they can communicate with their head. And that is the only person that is allowed to ride that dragon. And that person obviously was chosen because their soul is pure. They're not like some evil freaking person that runs in and goes, I mean, unless the dragon's evil, then they might want someone like that. Well, and I didn't want to do that though. I wanted, so dragons have a very ancient connection to the original force of the living that created the living in all the realms, which is called chaos. And so their ancient life force is so pure that they don't hatch with the essence of evil. They're very powerful and pure. But obviously, if we get a writer that has some other motives that aren't intentionally what many may seem as good, the dragon may contort to that. And that's because at the end of the day, for me, what was important was there was no direct evil or good. There was, what is someone's definition of evil and someone's definition of good? While a villain may be a hero in some eyes, a hero is a villain in others' eyes. So that was an extremely important concept to me, that anybody can have a justifiable goal, so long as it has reason. And somebody might see that as evil, but somebody else might see that as the start of something good. So that was very important for me with every single character that comes to life. Is I don't want them as just as pure evil.
Mhm.
What is their justification? Are they wanting to start a new world because they think the world now has major flaws that have harmed the essence of reality and the living? And by starting a new world, they can start something beautiful. And maybe that's their motives to getting there are a little messed up to people. But at the end of the day, are they justified? And
No, that's good.
Yeah, I wanted every character to have relatability. Even my darkest character has to viewers who becomes Morei down the road, which by the end of the second book, he does an action that many may see controversial and even evil, but he does it after 2 books of constantly having to put up with trying to do what the people want him to do, but the people constantly rejecting him. And even though all he wants is to protect the people, because that's what he was raised to be. So people may see the act as evil, but others who have followed now his journey for 2 books will go, well, he's kind of justified. So that was really important for me.
No, I like that. I couldn't write something pure evil either. I'd have to do what you're doing, which is give you their point of view and their justifications, because I need that. I need to understand what it is, because they, every character is the hero of their own story, and you need that to understand them. So no, I totally understand that.
Yeah. So that's incredibly important to me. And that's a huge driver of my plot, my characters, all of that is it has, and I utmost respect for Star Wars. I fell in love with Star Wars because of the same concept, which was the First Order or the Empire. They had these like crazy motives to getting to their goal, but their goal was very pure at the end of the day. They had major intentions of restarting, rebuilding, whatever it may be, even if the motives were a little extreme to viewers' eyes. And the Jedi as well also had very extreme motives occasionally, but they had very pure like end goals. And I always thought, I want a story like that where there's no direct good versus evil, but there is goals versus goals, and everybody has justification and a reason for why they're pursuing such major end results, even if at the destruction of half the world. Like, that's fine.
I like Star Wars, and I also hate it. There are things
that's totally fine. I respect that. But that was one of those first times when I witnessed just that concept where it wasn't strictly good versus evil. And I was like, whoa, to capture a world like that and have fans from all over the world and say, no, Darth Maul or Darth Vader, General Grievous, whatever, like they're epic and their reasonings are like insanely cool, but their motives might be a little extreme. And so I fell in love with that concept of just like, and that was the first time I was introduced to it, where I thought you can have a world like that
in the books, because in the movies, like, there wasn't a whole lot of justification for why they were doing things.
No. You have to, that's where I was like in the stories and stuff like that.
Okay, so you're talking about the Star Wars books. I've not read any of the Star Wars books. I've only seen the movies, so I'm like, I don't remember any of that.
You're like, what the hell?
But I checked out after episode 7. I was like, the only part of this I was interested in was Finn, and I could just tell that they were not going to give that justice. That was just such a cool thing, and I'm like, I don't trust them to actually do what I would like to see, which is more of this. This is more interesting than anything else in the entire movie. So
books will never be completely replicated in a movie. So when the first time I was introduced to Star Wars, I was like, where can I get a book? Like, this is it. So 100%.
I do think that the movies came first and then there were the books. So yeah. So it's
But
the movies are not trying to replicate a book. I feel like the books came out to flesh out the world of the movies because it left a lot of holes.
that was my mistake. That was a verbiage flop on my part. But yeah,
It's all good.
I have a collection back here of Star Wars material, like the lore and stuff like that, where like I'm a super geek, so I'll just
You're in good company. I'm not the super geek about Star Wars, but I am about other things. You're in good company.
Storytellers, we're geeks at the end of the day.
We are.
We find our niche and that our muse, and it's just like we obsess over it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For those who've been here, you know that my chosen geekdom is Tolkien.
God, respect.
I love it.
Yep, incredible. But what else you got for me?
And there are things I don't like about it, but in the whole, I like it. So there's more good than bad. But yeah,
I love that.
So can we talk about some of these dangerous relics?
Oh, absolutely.
I have that like triple star. Like I need information. I don't know what it is like, but magical relics like intrigue me. I always want to hear all the details about those. I don't know what that says about me.
Coolest thing, like relics, like when I get into a fantasy world and I can find, even if it's like one relic and they just mention it in passing, I'm like, I hook on it, and I'm like,
I want to see it. I want to touch it. I want to know what it does, who had it, why this person has it now, how did it get here? You know, I want all the details.
Yes. That's my soulmate right there. I feel ya. So
let's talk about them relics.
Let's do it.
Let's geek out on them.
So what was earlier, I mentioned that there was a figure one of the two figures that mastered dark energy prior to Morei, and one of those figures who becomes a very prominent character in this main saga is called Henry Junok. And Henry's got a bad attitude. Now he's the Thanos enemy, right? He is the guy you go, okay, he's extreme, and he could truly be considered the true antagonist of this series.
Is he like Thanos, like Marvel Thanos? Or are we talking Thanos, like Greek god Thanos? Because my brain immediately went to Marvel.
I was Marvel.
I was a Marvel girl, Marvel teenager growing up, reading all the comics. That's immediately where my brain went. I just wanted to double check that I was right.
You are correct. Like, perfect. I always think when, and he looks nothing like Thanos, like nothing like that, but he's always been that Thanos in my vision. Like, if you were to compare and go, okay, who's this character in the grand scheme of things? He is the Thanos.
Nice.
And so I love him to death, and many, many perceived him dead, right? But we all know in fantasy that doesn't last long.
No.
So when he was in his ruling, about 460 summers ago or so, he was in the process of resurrecting an empire called the Lyrelian Empire. And he had mastered the concept of harvesting pure metals from the ground. But there's a lot of things made of metal, so he became a very destructive enemy. Obviously, swords and all that, and armor. So which nobody else in history has been able to do. So he was very powerful, and he was very power hungry, and he was very gifted as well. And in the process, he struck a deal with a god, and in this deal, they created 3 relics, which you'll get introduced to one of the relics in the first book, which becomes a very huge play in the rest of the series, called the Demon Killer. And the Demon Killer can basically be the only weapon that kills anybody that is soul bonded to a demon, any powerful mythical beast, like whatever it may be, because it was born from the heart of a dragon, basically. And along with the dark ritual that takes place. So
I was going to say, how do you get from a heart of a dragon?
Henry's got his ways.
I see.
That's obviously we have to keep it extreme.
Right.
And he had the god's help as well. So things happen. And now, for anybody that's listening and thinks, wait a minute, there was 800 years with no dragon riders. How did a dragon show up? That's the question, right? So that is the unanswered plot that many will come to realize and say, holy crap, were there dragons and they had rejected riders and they were living on their own. And those are the dragons I mentioned a little bit earlier.
Are they still around, these rogue dragons?
Yes, absolutely. Just fewer in numbers. And our characters don't know about them yet. But
okay.
Things take a very drastic turn in the third book, and I think
the characters decided it was time to find out if they exist, or the rogue dragons decided, it's been too long. Let's check up on these humans, and maybe they're worthy of writing us, or maybe they make
all
good
this
lunch.
reference of the dark forest has suddenly paid off. So the demon killer is. But the demon killer also has an extremely powerful energy force with it. And you'll actually, any reader that reads the blurb, is the first word is the relic, is the demon killer. And it was responsible.
Those who are listening to the podcast, she's beating up the book right now.
I am beating up the book right now. Sorry.
She's hitting the book to make her points. Go on, I'm sorry. It was just such a fun visual.
That was a love tap.
It was a love tap.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
They'll get you later, the characters. They're already plotting. I can see them in the background.
The voices are talking to me again.
Oh no. What are they saying? Anything that you want to share on the podcast?
There's coffee's involved, I believe. Coffee, biscuits, maybe.
They're trying to bribe you.
So Henry Junok was responsible for the largest massacre in Vorelian history, and he did this with the demon killer, because the demon killer has a powerful energy force that nobody has been able to break into except Henry himself. But everybody knows that in the wrong hands, this demon killer could literally result in a second massacre in Vorelian history. And so that becomes a major driver in the plot for Syra, because Syra somehow manages to get her hands on the demon killer. And once people figure out she's got her hands on the demon killer, she is hunted and there is a massive bounty on her head. But she is a purist. She's like, well, in the wrong hands, this can do terrible things, and I'm willing to literally go across the world to protect this demon killer, and so it doesn't get into the wrong hands. But
her hands are the right hands.
That's what you're supposed to hope. Obviously, she does some actions by the end of the first book and in the second book that that as a writer I did intentionally, because I don't want a pure protagonist or a pure antagonist, where you go, what the heck are you doing, Syra? Like, you're supposed to be the good person here. And so that was very important for me. But she also has a little bit of a plot twist happens in the second book, which drives some of her actions. And I can't say anything because it's a huge, it's one of those things where, as a writer, and I'm sure you can understand, where you plant so many Easter eggs in the first book. And then in the second book, when you have that major moment, you're like, I did it. So that's one of those moments for me.
I mean, and sometimes we don't realize we're planting. Like, I planted something in book 2 that, like, it was just a throwaway thing because it was in another book that I had written like years ago that it will eventually finish and put out. It has more dragons in that book that I will eventually finish. But there was this one thing that, like, I was like, they're living on the same world. So if the Enderai are over in the ocean, like, it would be in the rivers underneath that go through the underground city. They would just be there. They don't have to do anything or show up anywhere. Like, I was like, we should probably see them somewhere because, like, they make magic, they glow, and they like water. And so I was like, just had a throwaway thing where the character sees them, and then in book 6, I'm trying to save everybody from this magic eating thing, and I'm like, oh wait, as I started rereading the whole series. I was like, there's got to be something in here, and I found in book 2, and I was like, right, I have these little things that create magic, and they live in the water, and that's literally all they do.
Oh, I love.
I was like, Wait, so I actually do have the antithesis just sitting there, and I forgot all about it. Like, it took me a whole year to like find a solution to that problem, and it was sitting right
That's
there in
amazing.
book 2. It was not intentional that I put it there.
Those Easter eggs that you leave yourself that you don't even
Yes,
know. Best moments.
yes,
Magical moments.
yeah,
I've
and
been
it's
there. I've done
yeah.
the same thing.
I
That
hope it doesn't
was,
take you 12 books to get some of those Easter eggs, like, come full circle
of
and
course.
show up.
Of course, of
As
course.
I'm having, because we can't control the characters, so
Oh God, no. Oh God,
yeah.
no. There's stuff that I mentioned in the first book that I come back to and I'm like, wait a minute. This was so much more than what I just said it as it was in the moment. I'm like, this is an entirely separate plot. Like,
Right?
and I just said it in passing. This is
Yep,
huge.
I've done that too.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of that in the book behind me.
It's exciting. Oh yeah. The epic background book.
Mhm. That's Sarn
He's
from the
reaching
Cursebreaker
out.
series. Yeah, he wants me to finish Chasing Dragons, the 11th
I
book in
know
the
all this fantasy talk.
series.
I'm like, I need to pull up my Word document right now.
Right? We need
I'm
to
like,
get back to it. The characters are called. Well, he's literally reaching for me.
I was gonna say he
Get me off
literally has
screen.
you.
Yeah. He
I
doesn't
love that.
care that like there's laundry that needs to be done, there's food that needs to be cooked, there's
God
grocery
no.
shopping that has to happen.
No. Houses in shambles? No. We don't worry about
Right?
that.
Who
As
cares
long
that
as
you
it's
didn't
right.
send back the wedding invitation that you're to let them know you're coming? They know you're coming.
Oh
Yeah,
my
all the
God.
things.
Oh my gosh. That is amazing. I love that. I love that. Now the other thing I want to mention for
Yes.
anybody that gets into this book and is like, wait, there was 3 relics. They are mentioned. There's an Easter egg mentioned in the end of Syra's storyline when she stumbles on somebody. And it's a mention of a crown. And that crown is one of the relics. But y'all readers aren't supposed to know that. That's my little tidbit for you. Now, Morei stumbles on the 3rd and final relic, which is in the 2nd book. And that is the ring, the Lyrelian ring, which Henry Junok himself wore. And that ring was used for him to be able to see bits and pieces of the past or present or future. And in doing so, be able to control his actions so that he can get the result he wants, right? When he's building this Lyrelian empire, he's like, I need something powerful that I know I'm making the right decisions. Obviously, things didn't end out how he wanted, but he's not done yet, everybody. Henry didn't stay dead. So I think we can all attest to that. So Morei finds this ring, and Morei, in doing so, when wearing the ring, when you put it on, you get tidbits of a past or present or future memory or a vision. And he sees the dragon rider, who's my other male character, the Cyrus, and that is a future storyline that is getting told in the 3rd book. So he sees that, but here's the problem. And this is something that was also really important to me when I made these relics, was that I didn't want the relic to be just handed over to somebody and have all this power with no consequences. I'm like, no. We don't do that here. So anybody that wears the Lyrelian ring is basically walking between realms. And there is spirits of the dead that basically come and haunt you when you start wearing this ring. And so for example, as Morei is standing there and he's watching this vision unfold and he's like, what the heck? Like, this is the guy that I'm hunting because of other political reasons. And now he's watching this character unfold. But when he turns around, he's face to face with a spirit of the dead. And the spirit of the dead has a bad attitude and doesn't like it when mortal or living people cross into that realm. And if you don't take the ring off fast enough, she can kill you. So she's got a huge backstory, and she's basically the guardian of that thing. And she's got a bad attitude. And Morei learns that in order to see visions, he has to keep an eye out for this woman that is guarding this entire ability to see these visions. because he's letting spirits wander into his conscious, basically, at the end of the day. So I had a lot of fun with that one because I didn't want like a pure like put on the ring, see this vision, I just get to take the ring off whenever I want. I wanted pure consequences for being able to have that kind of power.
No, that's very cool. That's so cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
So he gets to see this woman a lot. He starts, and that's the fun part is you start to realize this woman has a massive storyline and she's the spirit of this dead. But we don't know who she is yet. I know who she is, but I won't say anything because it's going to play into a huge storyline that was introduced into story 1. So I won't say anything there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. My brain is stuck on that, like, because usually the magic ring, you put it on, you do whatever the thing does, and there aren't any consequences, like you said.
Right. And I wanted something different. I wanted kind of that horror element where you could be like seeing this vision, right? And this is what happens. You see this vision unfolding, but then you look right and you can see this like just this horrific looking spirit of like the dead approaching you. But every time you look, she's not moving. You look towards the vision, you see the vision unfolding. You look again, she's closer. And so you're basically at a race against time. Like, what does it cost to learn the truth of a vision, like a memory of any sorts? And that can be death itself. And so I wanted something kind of horror infused for that.
No, wow. I don't think I have anything like that. That's so cool.
I'm a hardcore horror lover.
I can tell. Nothing wrong with that. Horror is the other end of the fantasy spectrum, and I firmly believe that it is most definitely the other end of fantasy. There's, my stuff, which is the brighter side. Then we get to the dark fantasy, and then there is horror. I blend.
I always say because there's certain scenes that have been really inspired by the horror genre. So I always say it's more of that epic dark fantasy with horror elements because I always thought, why not take elements of horror that are so freaking good that for a reader you're like stressing out when you're reading, as if you're reading a horror book, these specific scenes, and I'm like, why not fantasize them? Like, why not?
That's cool. Them? I go the other direction. I go more towards the humor side.
Love humor side.
The characters are just
mad respect because I can't write that. Like, I get too dark. Like,
I have my moments where I get dark too, but like I like the lighter thing where like the characters there's some weird feature of their world and they think it's weird too and they poke fun at it. And I love that when they're just like,
that's good.
What the hell are all these statues in the way? You'll all be finding out in, maybe book 13. If the characters if they cooperate. I've been trying to get to this for like a while now and I can't do it when they don't cooperate. There's some setup involved. If they don't do the setup, then I can't do the story.
You can't force the storyline on the characters because then it's like you lose the charm and you're like, fine, whatevs. Like, I'll just put this off for another book. It's fine.
That's it. I need some specific setup. So it can't follow a book that has like leaves a lot of things hanging. It's gotta follow one that tied up a lot of things, and we've got room to start leaving because it's going to leave a lot of. There's going to be it's a major thing that's going to happen and change a lot of things, and like so I need space to have some more open, some new Easter eggs, some open things. So I'm just trying to get them to wrap up the ones from previous books so we have space for this,
And every book, the world gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
You can only juggle so many like plot points and character, arcs and story threads. At some point, some of them have to end so new ones can begin. Getting them to cooperate with that is something else.
I completely agree with you. And it sometimes it's like, and I don't know if you get like this sometimes where the world keeps getting bigger and bigger. And then you're like, I have to reference to certain points in the previous writing because I can't remember if I even left the foundation for that. And now, do I have to reintroduce this whole thing, or is this, do I have that already? And I can just build off that and then be like, remember that one conversation from like 600 pages ago? Like, hey, we're going to revisit that.
Yes.
Yes.
I've started in this last book because it called back to like so many of the books that came before, not just in this series, but in the sister series and in another series. There was just, so I put like a page at the end with, okay, in this chapter, when they were talking about this, that is in this book. I didn't do a flashback because it's better if you just go and read the situation in that book.
That.
And I had a whole in the next book I would have to do the same thing because it references books in 2 other series, like things that happen. And because the characters have decided that they would like to tie all those loose ends together in one book. And I was like, I thought about doing footnotes. I even had a poll in the newsletter and people were interested in footnotes, and the characters were like, yeah, but it's going to look messy and it might take people out of the story. And they had a whole lot of arguments against. So I was like, we'll just do a page at the end as like in this chapter, this referenced, Relic Hunter or Rogue Knight or Rogue Rescue or whatever. Or, if it was a previous book in this same series, I didn't do that for it because I just put like everything else was in a previous book that you read in this series. So.
I love that. Honestly, I think that's so creative and I think that's so smart. It's almost like you have like a historical framework where you refer as a reader, like, and I think many readers can attest to this. It is so freaking exciting when you can open a book and you can see there's reference points and be like,
yes.
Oh my God, I read that in this book over here like 2 weeks ago, and now it's being re-referenced. And when all those pieces start to fit together.
Yes. No, I love that too. I love that too. And I hate when you're like, I can't remember which book I read that in. I want to go back and reread it. So I was like, I'll make it easy for you. I'll put a list. And I just put it right after the story ended. It's just, I explained that, characters wanted to like in conversation reference things from other books. So
yeah,
there you go. So you know where you can go and read what they're talking about, because
I love that.
Yeah, I was like, it wouldn't make sense to like summarize it on page, and a flashback wouldn't make sense. They're having there's the child characters wondering about something that happened that he was in a scene in the sister series with the sister, which is his aunt, not his father, the father wasn't there for this scene, and it wasn't in the father's book because it was part of her story, not part of his story. So it was something that happened that like he was there with her. So he was referencing, he was just wondering like, do angels eat? Because there was this like devil character offering her this apple, and it was a reference to the Adam and Eve thing, and she was like not buying into it. It had special powers, the apple, supposedly. And he was there for that, and he was frozen because the demon character froze him, and he couldn't like speak or ask many of the questions in his little head, and now he's wondering about that.
Oh, that's epic!
It was such a cute line, and I was like, but if you haven't read his Angelic Keeper Tempted, you would not know what the heck he's talking about, because that didn't happen in a Cursebreaker book.
Right.
So
right. And
it was like multiple. It was this whole dramatic sequence. It was like 2 chapters of like, and like, because the monster is coming and the devil's tempting her, and she's just like, it was a whole thing in her book that. And like, so I wanted to put that reference. And then there was a reference to another series that's a prequel. And I was like, well, if you haven't read it, because the prequel series isn't finished. So some readers are waiting till the prequel series is finished. And I've hooked it back into it to read that. So I was like, if you haven't read that, you wouldn't know when Sarn is talking about, Robin and this whole spell circle business. You'd have no idea what the heck he's talking about, because it didn't happen in a Cursebreaker book. So I was like, I need to put some kind of reference you can go and read that whole thing, because it does happen in a book.
Oh, so I love that when the world is so big that you have these big moments that are either historical or have happened in a parallel timeline, and you can just hop over and be like,
yes,
I'm going to write a whole book about this.
That's what I've done, and my characters want to do more of that. So
I think that's fabulous.
There's going to be more trilogies that are outside of the Cursebreaker series that we may refer to. Characters may refer to it. I'm not responsible for what the characters refer to in the books.
No, at this point we are at their service.
Yeah, I can just provide guidance on where to go and read that particular scene if you want to.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's creative.
Yeah.
I really like that.
Any more relics that you want to talk about, or have we given enough spoilers?
We've given, I mean, I've mentioned the 3 that will be massive key points to this main saga.
But are there others?
Oh, there's always others. Because literally, it's like as I write these books, the world just continues to expand, and I go, oh, remember this relic that I suddenly just made up?
It's now going to be in book 54.
It's been here this whole time. You just didn't even know it.
Yep.
Best moments. Yeah. So I have, but those are the big ones. Those are going to be the big drivers of the main plot. And then I'll spare everybody from the going on and talking about different. I could go on about for the next hour about relics. So.
Okay. All right. So we'll leave that for readers to enjoy and find out on their own. And so what can the Blood of the Dragon is out, you said earlier, and the second book is out.
Yes.
So is the next book coming out soon? Where is the next book at in the process of leading up to publishing? It is a process. It's not, oh, I'm done, hit publish. There's a whole process behind the scenes.
Yeah. It takes a couple of blood sacrifices to the writing gods, like whatever it might be. Like, and
they don't always listen.
They don't always,
you're aware.
Exactly. I published the second book, and I will confidently and shamelessly admit that I took a minor break from jumping right into the third book. And that's because I was having a massive argument with one of the main characters regarding their storyline and where they were going to be ending up at. I knew how it was going to end, but getting there was a process where, you know how it is when it's like a world that big, you're like, every moment, every scene are such key scenes where, everything is tied into everything.
Yeah, everything. So, it has to lead to the thing you want, or you can't have it. And sometimes the characters don't want to do the things that lead up to it. And then you're like stuck where you can try and like make them do things that'll lead to it, or try to figure out, well, I need X. Is there another way I can get them to X that they'll actually do? Exactly. Or you have to just be like, okay, they're headed towards Y. So either that's going to become the end of this book, or...
That's exactly what happened with Morei. He is my thorn in my side. The action he takes at the end of the second book is an action that I had known well before the publication of the first book that was going to happen. And he rewrote, he has driven that entire storyline, where every attempt that I've had in an outline, I was like, it just went off the rails. So that ending, though, with the second book is such a major arc for him that third book really has to follow strongly from that and still get him to his point X, so to speak, at the end of the third book. And so I've had a little bit of a major ongoing argument with him, and he's kind of held up the whole process, where I'm like, Morei, I need you to please compromise with me. Like, can we have a conversation here? And I finally got there. So I'm about a month and a half, 2 months behind writing where I would like to be for the third book. However, I did take that opportunity, and that's where I branched out into the Dragon Rider series. And I was like, fine, if you're not going to talk to me, I'll go talk to other characters. So I've been working on that, and that
just for anybody who doesn't know, when we characters not paying attention, and we pay attention to other characters, eventually that character will get jealous that we're not writing their story and start talking to us again, but then we have the problem where we're in the middle of two different books, and both the main characters are talking to us, and we have a fight on our hands for our time because we have limited time that we can spend actually writing, so we have to write one thing or the other, so it becomes who's more cooperative at that point.
And it's 100% the truth. And that is exactly where I'm at, where I've given a lot of attention to the Dragon Rider series, and I've had a lot of fun exploring that world because it takes place 800 years or summers prior to the events of the Blood of the Lion. So that one's been really fun to play with and stuff like that. But in doing so, Morei got super, super jealous and was like, excuse me. So everything I see that's a key inspiration for my writing, Morei keeps popping up in my head. And he's like,
hello, I'm over here waiting.
He's like, this is an inspirational scene for me. And I'm like,
so he's just still, yeah, that's what happens.
But we don't want to cooperate on the storyline yet. I'm like, but he's like so loud in my head. I'm like, oh my gosh. So yeah, my books are about 150,000 words, 160,000 words occasion, like both of them. So I'm about 17,000 words into the third book, the third book. So I still have quite a bit to go, but I'm hoping, fingers are crossed, I'm hoping for like an April release next year. These books are so big, I don't rush them. I can't. I'm a total serial writer. Like I will write. Yeah, I can write 160,000 words in 4 months if I really wanted to. 3 months if I truly knew exactly where I was going.
And the characters, you know, follow the outline, follow directions as given, show up, are ready to do their thing when we're ready to write, which doesn't always happen. Sometimes we have to fight them.
Oh God, no. So if the characters are behaving and we are all on the same page, 3 months, easy, 160, not a problem. Obviously for fighting, it takes a little bit longer. But yeah, so that's where I'm at, where I'm like, I'm in the process of writing it. But the thing is I have a character in my Dragon Rider series, Emran, who is extremely cooperative. And I'm like, it's just that storyline is just like desperately being told. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I got you. Like, we're here. I got you. So yeah, I'm in a bit of that weird stage where
it's hard because sometimes you have to write two at the. I have 3 that I have to write at the same time right now.
Oh God,
they're all. He's in like 2 of them because he's so loud that he shows up in every book. He showed up in all the prequels. He showed up in books he wasn't supposed to be in. I have 21 books published. He's in every single one somewhere.
That is amazing. That is amazing. That's my Henry. Henry's done that.
He's even tried to take over books where he wasn't supposed to be the main character. I went back one prequel that I wrote, and there was 2 other characters supposed to be the mains, and I went back and like I had it's been a long time since I've like written it. I wrote it in 2018, so I put it in like one of those like was it ChatGPT just to summarize the different chapters, because I wanted to see get like an overall like view of like I know what we did in the book, but I wanted to see, and like I went through and I realized that like most of the book was him and he wasn't supposed to be there. I was like, oh God. So yeah,
there he is. That sassy character. I love characters like that.
He's not really sassy, though.
God. I have a
he's the reluctant hero cinnamon roll type, the quiet, loving, caring person. So the fact that he's so loud, he's not a very talkative character in the books.
It's his energy, it's his presence, the way he comes across. You're just like, he is needed.
He just appears in every scene, whether he's supposed to be there or not. And I'm like, wait.
He's like, I'm here. Even though nobody called for me.
That's it. He's just, yeah.
I get it. That's my, Sakar is my Dark Lord, but he was once the god of dreams, and he has an entire backstory. And that bastard shows up everywhere. He is such a loud character, and he is just taken over multiple storylines, and he's always somehow managed to be referenced. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, bro.
Yeah, he's like that character that walks on screen and suddenly he has lines and you're like, wait,
like,
you in the script. Yeah. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'm making things better. Just go on about your business. I'm just making things better, you know?
My presence makes the storyline better. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I get it.
So you mentioned the Dragon Rider books. Are they published or you're still writing them?
Those are still being written right now. That was about 2 years ago when I finished the Blood of the Lion and I published it. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, one day I'm going to tell the story of the fall of the Rider Federation, which was when the Dragon Riders basically ruled the world. And there was
they decided now is the time.
Now is the time when I exactly
put all your plans aside. Forget what readers want. You know now
exactly.
is the time.
I was like, suddenly
You're telling this now.
Like, no.
We have dragons. We'll come and make you.
Exactly. I'm like, everybody's gonna want to read about Dragon Riders. Let's do it. Screw the third book. Like, but that was the thing. It was just like when I finished the second book, and I kind of was like in that mental break where I thought, okay, I'd like to walk away, because the editing process is where all my time usually goes when I'm in, like we were talking about earlier, serial writer. I'll finish that book, the draft, in 3 or 4 months, but it will take me 6 or 7 months in the entire editing process. And that
you don't edit as you write? Because that's
I do edit as I write, but I work with an editor as well.
Right.
And so I have, I'm a very slow editor. Slow editor in my works. And I'm getting better at that, but that's where my self-doubt hits usually, is in the editing process. And so it takes me a little bit more time, even though I had all the confidence in the world writing the draft, personal edits, all that.
You're telling me the characters actually like stop talking to you, and they get really loud during the editing process. They're like, is this really necessary? Do you need to be doing this? Why can't you just put this out for readers? You don't need marketing plans. You just we want to get, they're so obsessed with getting to the reader as quickly as possible. They drive me nuts.
God.
Like if they could reach through the computer screen and hit the publish button, they would. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like if they could do that, I would have to hide the books on them. They're that impatient.
Mad respect for that. That is where I am slowly working on myself as a writer in general, is just having such confidence that the characters can stay that loud during the editing process. Now, once I get over that hump of that imposter syndrome and stuff like that, usually the characters come back and they're like, knock, knock. I've been here the whole time. And remember that scene from like 400 pages ago? I hate it. And can we rewrite that? And then I'm like, cool, I get it. I can see your vision. But sometimes it takes me a couple of months to get through that process in my head where I'm like, okay.
Well, I think as you write more books, that will go away, because then you can, when the imposter syndrome hits, you can look and say, well, I've published these books and people have, they have good reviews. People are liking them. Maybe I'm not an imposter.
I know.
I've written 21 books and I still feel the imposter things sometimes. They're just so loud that they drown it out a lot of the time. They've even taken over my newsletter, and they complain about me if I take too long with the editing process. I'm not even kidding. Like, it's unreal.
I have so much respect for that. And that's where I'm really working towards. Now, I will tell you, I have done a couple of short stories with like anthology projects and stuff like that. And I tell you, it is a completely different mindset for me. I get in there and I'm like, I have that thing written and edited in like a week. I'm like,
because you have that hard, unyielding, unmovable deadline.
This is true. The deadline does help a lot. And it's just like imposter syndrome is so much quieter in those processes. But when it gets into this giant world, and I'm like, I sometimes get really stuck in my head for those first 2 months of the editing process, and that kills me. So I am forever grateful for my readers for just the patience that they've had between books. And they show up arms raised, swords there, and they're like, let's get in. My favorite part though, and I was laughing, was, I write these books and I go through such an in-depth editing process, and, I love my editor to death. That guy he's a gem to me. And I'll, spend months and months in preparing the covers, marketing, all that. And, book 2, for example, took a year to get out, despite the draft being done nearly 2 months after the release of the first book. I was done with it. But for some odd reason, and I can't even recall why, but the process to getting to the publishing line was a little bit longer than I anticipated. And I publish it, I send it to my advanced readers, and one of them messages me in 3 days. We're talking like like 517 page book. And they're like, I'm done. That was amazing. I'm like, 3 days. 3 days, and I took a year to get this to you.
Yeah, I know. They read them pretty fast.
And it's amazing. I love it. The reader reactions during advanced reads are they are some of the best experiences for me as a writer. I'm like, reviews, whatevs. I'll be honest, I don't even look at reviews. I don't focus on that sales review portion, at least right now in my writing career. I just have a lot of fun writing and delivering it to readers and then hearing their immediate reactions as they're reading the story. That to me that's the selling point for me.
Oh, wow. No, that's very cool. That is very cool to have that dialogue.
Yeah, I have so much fun with it. And those readers they've given me the confidence. They've, especially with their acceptance of the first book, having that been my debut, and having spent years working on it, draft after draft, and then, having an editor work with me hands-on, bringing this world to life in the tone that I want to capture for it. And then for them just to accept me with open arms and be like, let's freaking do this. We're Vorelians. And I'm like, holy crap. Like, you like my writing? Cool. So yeah, that was that major confidence booster that I needed.
Yeah, no, it is a thrill to see people buying the books, downloading it. Like, you're not there when they're reading it, so you don't know, but the fact that they buy the next book, you're like, well, they must have liked the first one.
Right. I'm like,
I think they must have liked my baby,
Yeah. That's my favorite. I love to get those immediate reactions when a reader goes, holy crap, why did that happen? Like, they're like, so-and-so just did this. And I'm like, yeah. They're like, what is happening as they're texting me? And I'm like, keep reading. That's the best part.
No, it is. And then you can write things specifically for certain readers. Like, there's a couple of scenes in the last book that I wrote specifically for some of the some of the super fans that I know that have been, that we've had some correspondence over the years, like some things that they've that I just, I think they would really enjoy because they wanted to see, which is, it's always fun when we can do that. And
those are the best moments.
Yeah. And I mean, the book and The Blood of the Lion has actually won awards, so that's also ammunition to use against your imposter syndrome. And they don't just hand those out for participation.
It's so funny you say that, actually. I wrote the first book, and while I was marketing on social media and stuff, I published that book. I had a really awesome outreach and support from all my advanced readers. And that was really, really satisfying and fulfilling for me. But I was dealing with, after the publication of the first book, I was still dealing with a huge imposter syndrome issue. And I ignored everything about the first book for 7 months after it was published, despite it being in the editing process for the second book. And I had, on a whim, I was like, I'll just submit it to this award system, the reader's favorite, and I doubt I'll win anything. Cause I even to this day, I still have self-doubts about the first book. And I think that's always going to stick. Even though I'm so proud of the second book, I'm like, I always want to shove the second book in everybody's faces. But I think the first book being the absolute debut book I've ever shared with people, and the first time I ever shared writing with people, it still harbors a lot of insecurities around it. I'm slowly working through that.
I totally understand that. I have many insecurities about him. But it is the first book in the series.
Exactly. And it's the first book of the series. And it was such a journey for both the characters and you as the storyteller. And I'm slowly coming to that conclusion. I'm my worst critic, as you can probably attest. You're your worst critic yourself when it comes to that stuff. And so I submitted that book on a whim, and I ignored everything about it. I was like, I'm never going to place. I didn't expect anything about it. And I got an email at the end of July that said, oh, your review is in for your book. And The thing is I didn't check the email. I thought it was a disqualifying email. So I ignored it for like 6 weeks. I kept it in my inbox, and I was like, when I get the bravery, I'll look. So that was like first part of September, and I thought on a whim, I don't know, must have been super confident that night, and I was like, I'm gonna look. So I pulled it up, and I saw the 5-star review, and it was just like 2 days prior to the release of the awards, where they were gonna nominate everybody and say who won. And I saw the 5-star reader review, and I was like, I cried, bawled my eyes out. That was the first time that I realized that I think I might have something special here. And that was a big moment for me. And then the 2 days later, with shaking hands and a little bit more confidence because of those 5-star review award, I looked and I saw that I placed silver in the magic, like, folklore stuff, and I thought, holy crap, like, all these books, and I placed. And that moment, those couple of days in September last year was the first time, despite everything readers had told me, because self-doubt in my head, I'm thinking they're supposed to tell me that, they're all that. That was the first moment from a stranger, from a competition that owed me nothing, that said, you have something freaking epic here. And I went, holy crap, maybe I have something epic here. So that was that big moment for me, when I realized I think I might have something cool. And give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back.
No, it's definitely Reader's Favorite has been around for a while. He actually got a 5-star review from that as well. I don't remember what he placed. I put the original version in, like, that was back in 2016.
Yeah,
but it was I don't remember what Cursebreaker Enchanter placed at, but it just reminded me, like, I forgot all about it. It was like 7 years ago.
Amazing.
I never submitted it for any other award. Like, I just did that one because that was what I came across. But
it was
then I entered him into the self-published fantasy blog off this year, number 9. I don't know if are you in that?
Oh yeah, are you talking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm in that as well. Even though he came out 7 years, about 7 years ago. Yeah, 2016. I've redone it about 3 times. So the 3rd edition is what's in there, because I can't leave it alone. There'll be a 4th edition someday too.
Of course,
the characters, they put a personal note in there begging me not to do another edition, but I can't help it. It's my baby. I have to make it perfect.
It's your baby. Do it. If that brings you life and that gives your spirit life, like, do it.
But it's 165 pages, so like revising it is like a job.
Screw that. The characters demand it. Shall give it.
Oh no, they don't want me to. They want me to just keep, write other books in the series and like leave it alone. They're like, it's fine.
It's writer versus
leave it alone. You can fix typos if people find them, but don't touch anything else. Just leave it alone. Let the series continue.
It's a writer versus character moment. It's a true war that you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted it to match, the style that has evolved, and I wanted it. It felt like it was, because it was my first book. So as the series went on, my writing changed. I guess somewhere in between, after writing that one and writing the second book, I found my voice. I found, what I was going to do. Because that one, Cursebreaker Enchanted, starts heading towards dark fantasy, but like, we went a little bit, and then the characters decided this is not really what they want to be doing. So we made a course correction and went back towards things being a bit more, still very epic, lots of magic, lots of adventure, but like more humorous and a little more cozy sort of vibe. But we're still fighting the bad guys. We're still doing the things.
We're still doing character things.
We're still doing cool stuff, and there will be some books that are a bit darker than others. The last bunch have been more just fun fantasy adventures, like not
I
dark,
love that, though.
No body counts. Okay, well, one of them had a body count.
I was gonna say, I can't write a book without a body count, so I'm like,
well, all the other ones do. Like, there's like 3 books that don't have body counts. The rest do.
Those are fun though. I love that, being able to just vary between the narrative style and the voices, and just have fun. Go with the theme and the flow of the book. Like, if the story demands that way, do it. Like,
Yeah, they wanted a break from the high body count, the high concept fantasy, and do something a
yeah,
little lower key while they all like recuperated. There were other
weekend
mysteries and
bonus.
things that were not life threatening that they decided they would rather take care of and not. And so now I'm trying to get them back to all the high concept, high body count.
Characters have
More
lives
epic
too.
fantasy, and they're just kind of resisting because they're having too much fun on these other adventures. They
They have
are
lives.
fun.
Yeah.
They're chasing a dragon right now, and they're just having a lot of fun with that.
Oh my gosh, I love
The
that.
dragon doesn't want to. It doesn't. She doesn't really want to be. She has two little baby dragons, and like she just wants to raise them in peace and recuperate. She came from somewhere else. We don't know where. She won't tell us. She won't even tell us her name. So they just call her the mother dragon.
The
We know the two
mother
kids'
dragon.
names, and like the kids, one of them is friends with actual human children, wears wears an illusion so he can play with his little human friends. And so he wants to play with his human friends. She just wants to raise them in peace. And other people have found out about her, and like they want, one of them wants to bond with her. Everybody else just wants to keep the one who wants to bond with her from angering the big magical dragon and like destroying their whole underground city. Like they're afraid. They're like, they're picturing he wants to fly off into the sunset on the dragon's back. The dragon wants no part of that. And everybody else just wants to keep him from making her so angry that she pulls a Godzilla and starts leveling their city. So
Yes.
like, that's their current adventure, and they're having a lot of fun with that.
That's an oops moment. My apologies. Leveled the place.
Right? So, and then there's some God of Vengeance that showed up. That's my other characters are dealing with, and she's decided to put somebody called her, and now there's like one of my characters on trial, and he's like, I don't understand what's going on. And I'm like, I don't either. This was not in the outline. You're supposed to be recuperating. Well, and I decided to let them the other characters do the chase the dragon thing because it's amusing and it's fun. But you were supposed to be recuperating. You're not supposed to be like, there's not supposed to be some kind of court drama magic version with this goddess of vengeance thing and this time traveling other lunatic. Like I'm very I have no idea where they're going with this. This was not in the outline.
Those are the best scenes, though. Those are the best twists when it's like it's so outside the outline, and you're just like, okay, like
that's been my reaction. I'm like, okay, you want to do this? All right, let's, but don't come crying to me when you get caught like in a situation that you can't figure out that you decided you wanted to do this. You get yourselves out of it.
I agree.
I'm just gonna chronicle your insanity. That's my job right now.
I am the note taker.
That's what I feel like sometimes. And meanwhile, I'm trying to get them to this high concept thing, this other story that we've been teasing since book 1, where there's a joust and, and there's more political stuff and like, and these monsters show up and this character who got possessed like 4 books ago. I'd like to unpossess her, please. She's one of my favorite characters. I would like to have her back on the good side again, but they won't let me do the story. So I'm just like, come on, guys and girls.
I love that.
We're chasing dragons. We're not getting this poor character unpossessed, or I don't know what the word is.
She's good. Just she'll come back. She'll go and conquer the world.
She's been done destroying like the world now, and like I'd like to get her back to the good side, get the evil influence off of her, but like nobody else seems to be interested in doing this. I'm the only one.
You can't win against the characters.
No,
you honestly can't. Like you can
I keep
never
promising
win against characters.
I at the end of the book, I put like this, this will be the next one. And like, I keep having to go back and edit it. And like, well, no, actually they decided we're not doing Joust. So now the next book is this book that wasn't supposed to exist. And the sequel to this book that wasn't supposed to exist was another book that wasn't supposed to exist. We're still not doing the thing that I've been trying to get to.
Book 70.
I'm trying to make it book 12. I'm trying to wrap up all their insanity in this next one so that we can get to the joust thing. Because like, I want the joust. Damn it.
Oh God. I love that. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I want the joust where everything goes wrong. Like where the, I don't know. I don't know if you're into a Renaissance fair where they have the joust. And like, the first time I went, like I had this scene in my head where like they're there's the joust, and monsters show up and just run through it, and it becomes like the monsters are killing people, and my characters have to like stop them, and then there's somebody controlling them, and I didn't know who it was, and like I've just had this scene in my head for like more than 10 years, and they will just not let me bring it to fruition. I'm so mad. These misbehaving characters.
These giant scenes that live in our head for years. I 100% relate to that. I think it's funny.
I have more that I just can't get to. Like,
I
have the scene, the penultimate scene. I even wrote it where he breaks the freaking curse on the country, but I cannot get him to do that either.
He's busy.
I feel like he has a list of things he just doesn't want to do right now, and like all the things I want to do are like the top items on that list.
He has his own plans. He's so well developed at this point. He's just like he's downstairs enjoying a meal right now, and he's raiding your kitchen. So
I mean, sometimes I feel like they do, because I'll be like, wait, when I left for work, there was food in this fridge. Now there's not. What's going on here? I live alone.
What are you doing, man?
It is canonical that there is a portal somewhere in my apartment that connects my apartment to their home. Nobody's explained to me how this came about, but
it's fine.
Yeah, it is
canon. Tell me what I need from the store next time. Like,
yeah,
that would be great.
It's in this ridiculous. It's in the newsletter. The newsletter is fictional for the most part. Anytime it mentions my life, that is actually real. But the rest of it is 100% fictional. Everybody knows it. It's an established fact. The newsletter is an ongoing story that the characters are telling about me, about their books, and whatever else they decide to
Absolutely love that.
They had a whole battle with a couch monster because I was helping my dad take apart a couch. I don't know why we couldn't just get someone to haul the thing away, but my dad decided, no, we have to destroy this couch from the 70s that had glue and nails, and like every possible way that you could like fasten something together was used on this. And he decided, no, we have to break it up so we can go in the trash. And I'm like, why don't you just get someone to haul the stupid? I don't want to pay for it. I'll pay for it. He wouldn't let me, so we spent several weekends pulling this apart, and the characters decided that it was possessed and it was a monster, and that we should have a whole fight with it in the newsletter. So we have this ridiculous sequence.
That's creative. I love that.
I mean, there's that after 21 books, they're just that real, you know.
You gotta give characters a voice. Let them run.
Yeah, I mean, I think I gave them too much of a voice. Now, like, they view me as their employee. So,
Melinda, we're gonna need you to.
Well, that's what it is sometimes.
If you don't mind, we
got together and we decided that we don't want to do this. We want you to do that instead.
So it's actually gonna be you as the dragon hunter. You're gonna jump in there and you're gonna.
Well, in that. So I wrote a couple of, there was so many stories in the newsletter that I took of some of them and wrote them into a novel. And then the characters decided that the assignment was, we're just going to take the stories that you've already done in the newsletter and put them into something so people don't have to, because my newsletters existed for like 7 years. It's every week. The characters are up to something every single week, and they love holidays. So there's a special holiday edition on every freaking holiday. So that's a lot of issues. So that was the assignment. We're just going to take these earlier stories, put them in a book so it's easier for people to read.
That's creative. I love that.
Yeah, and they went totally off the rails, and there's this whole new like storyline that was never in any of this, and I got kidnapped somehow. They haven't saved me yet. They won't let, like, I'm like, guys, we got to do the third book of this. You need to save me. Like, I've been kidnapped. And the evil villain is a copy of me from another world. Apparently, there's just lots of Melindas wandering around, and they don't like me very much, the original. So I've been kidnapped by an evil version of myself.
That's awesome, dude.
They won't even save me. I'm like, can we work on this? No. It's fine. So that's what they think of me.
We'll get there. After we raid your fridge, all that.
Right? That's what I'm here for. Food and chronicling their adventures and getting them to people.
I get that. I love that.
That's just
creative.
Yeah, it's wild. I never know what we're doing. It's very wild.
But that's the fun.
but we got off topic. So the Blood of the Lion is also in SFBO 9, right? That's what I
Yes.
thought.
Yes. I sweated that one a little bit. That was actually one of those situations where I had forgotten about the competition because I had some other chaos going on, and I was just like, I totally forgot about it. And I had a good friend reach out to me the morning of the submissions, and she was like, WTF, like these submissions are open, like it's already half full. And I'm on Mountain Time, so it was like 6:15 a.m. for me. And I was like,
it was 8 a.m.
out
for
of
me.
bed, and I'm like, no coffee, nothing. I'm like, what is my freaking own password into my laptop? Like, yeah.
You're like, who am I? What planet am I on? What am I doing here?
Didn't know any of that. And I'm like trying to upload everything. And then I panicked for a while and I thought, oh my God, what if I submitted the wrong thing? And I'm like, no, I didn't.
I panicked too. Because I was filling it in like at stoplights on my way to work because it opens at 8 a.m. and I had to be at the office at 9 a.m. So there was no and I didn't know how long it would be open because I only heard about it like last summer. So I didn't like after it had already filled, but I didn't know how long it would take. So I was like, let me get it in because once I get to work, I'm never going to get to it. Like I had a meeting at 9:15 and the day just goes. So yeah, but I had a document on my phone and I was cutting and pasting and then I was like, but it's your phone. So I can't see all of the inputs. And I'm like, is that right? Did I do the right stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm just waiting it out. I'm hoping to be, get into the semifinals.
It's so fun though to see the community come together. That has been, I think, probably one of the most rewarding things to see is just like how freaking cool everybody is. I'm like,
yeah,
like the most epic group of sci-fi and fantasy writers in one like place. And it's just been so fun to like meet and greet, network, and like see what else everybody's created out there, what their worlds are all about. And I've just, I'm like, I'm smitten. I love science fiction. So for me, I'm like, that is like one of my absolute all-time pleasure reads is to get into a sci-fi world. And I just, so many freaking awesome stories out there.
Well, sci-fi is different. They have their own. There's a separate one for sci-fi. This one, SPFBO 9, is strictly for fantasy.
There's a group I'm a part of. There's a group I'm a part of that has all the science fiction, and so I've been networking over there just for reads, and that's where I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's a separate competition. This is. SFBO is only for fantasy. Which I thought was cool because there is a lot of variation. Now I'm like, do I want to enter? Because I have 5 book ones. Do I want to enter a book one next year?
What I like to enter today. I get it. Now I will say. My battery is running. I'm like 24% on my computer.
No, you know what? We've gone way over, and I've got another one of these. So like, I do have to stop and rest a voice. The calendar system booked. I didn't set it right, so it's booked 2 on every Saturday. So I'm like,
oh my goodness. Oh gosh.
No, it's okay. I love talking to people, but I'm like not good. I don't like cutting people off. But we've already been on for an hour and a half, so and a few minutes before that. So anything else that you want to say? I just want to make sure we got in like where the series is and ask if you're SPF BO9 because I thought you were, but I was not totally sure. And if anybody doesn't know, SFBO 9 stands for self-published fantasy blog off. It is a 9th year. 300 books can enter and then they cut it off. And then there's a semifinals and then the finals and only 1 book can win. So we're all hoping to get into semifinals and then the finals. But we will have many months to find out what
I know. It's going to take a while. But it's just been so fun to see everybody. And, you log on to Facebook. That's the only reason I get on Facebook right now. It's just to see what the updates are and that in the fantasy group for us. And it's so much fun.
It is.
To be a part of the community of like just like-minded people who get obsessed with giant worlds and want to write about giant things and all sorts of magic. Fun stuff. So that's magic. I love it.
Yeah.
But no, I'm at anybody that gets a wild hair and is like, you know what, I'm going to add another freaking epic fantasy into the list. The books, The Blood of the Lion and The Mark of the Damned. Amazon, Barnes & Noble online, Walmart online, a bunch of other bookstores that I don't even have knowledge of because I publish through Ingram and I find out through readers where they're available. So they're like, hey, it's over here. And I'm like, really? So don't know all the secrets there, but so they're all available over there, ebook, physical format. And yeah, you can hop on over to Instagram, cdmckenna1, and DM me if you have any questions or want to talk, so we can have fun.
No, that's awesome. And I'll have all those links in the description or the show notes, depending on where you're listening or watching. Perfect. So, you can just go click. Made it easy for you.
Go over
and again,
there too.
This is Chelsea McKenna, and we've been talking about The Blood of the Lion and many other things besides. And I am Melinda Kucsera, your indie fantasy author. Thank you so much for coming to another episode of Fantasy Lore and More. And we'll see you next time. Have a great night or a great day.
You have a beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you.